How you doing? Happy Friday. Welcome to live stream number 76. Today's topic is how to program the second side with CAM within Fusion 360. It's Friday. It is October 13, 2017. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video or join today's live stream. Haven't quite gotten anybody in there, but it's just going to take a couple of seconds. Hopefully we get a few people already there. We're good. People are in. Happy Friday, everyone. We made it. So it was a long week, wasn't it? I hope you had a good week, though, and you have an awesome weekend planned. Yes. So today, let's talk about programming the second side on your part. This is going to be, I think, maybe a little bit beginner. But even if you have some experience, I hope I can show you a couple of things that makes you excited. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining, for watching on the YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you like this, thumbs up. If you don't, be honest, thumbs down. Let's get into Fusion. Okay, so let's talk about programming the second side. So this part here, sitting on a vise. It's actually sitting on a Tormark vise. Tormark table on an orange vise. It says it right there. This little part here, and I used this part in a video I did earlier this year, talking about how to get your part in a vise, how to get the vise, how to get the table, how to get it all together and place it in there. So if you right now, that is your first thought is, hey, I want that. Down in the description area of this video, you will find a link to that YouTube video, and that will actually also have, that video will have this data set in it. So if you want to practice all this, you can go ahead and do that. The reason that I'm showing this is so this is going to be like one of these live streams where I'm going to be honest about how I'm doing a lot of different things. First of all, most of the videos you see that I do has the part in a vise. And this is absolutely not a bad thing to do. One of the cool things about that is, first of all, that you can see, of course, how things are going to be out of the machine. There is another thing that you should see here. So if I go in and I just have the setup created in here, I'm going to show you a cool trick about that in a minute too. I had the setup here, and if I just go in and do like a 2D adaptive to kind of like remove the outside of this part on, let's go and select the cutter. Doesn't really matter what cutter we're going to select here. I'm just going to go down to our inch library, but this could be, I don't know, 16 millimeter, whatever you need. And let's just select this outer edge here. So now we are machining all this around here. So let's just click OK, and then let's process this. And while we're at it, why don't we go in and simulate it, so we can kind of see how this looks here. So this is a nice roughing toolpath on operation 1. Now we're going to talk about flipping the part over. Right, so here you go. That's a little bit easier to see. So we got this. Now, one thing I want to show you that is also really nice about doing this type of setup is that when you're machining this, you probably want to machine a little bit deeper down than that edge that I just picked. I just picked the bottom edge of the part. I probably want to, machine it a little bit further down. If I know myself, this is a long time since I put this in the vise, but if I have an idea, if I want to go a little bit deeper, I could go into the heights tab, go down to the offset, and I could put in an offset in here. Now, I'm going to test myself here. If I say minus 200 thousandths, I have a feeling that I will be machining into the jaws. And it surely looks like I would. So if I go in here and hit the simulate button, well, we can see this is ugly, right? These jaws are hardened, sparks are flying, the boss comes running out, because that's always happens when this happens. There's a cool trick that you need to know about this. If you go into the setup, right click and hit edit your setup. So this is where we originally set up our origin and all that stuff. Down here, there is something called fixture. If you check that, we can actually select, like I would select my jaws, and I'll probably also select the parallels that this is sitting on. If we do that in the fixture, under setup, and now the toolpath, of course, want to be updated. So let's generate that. When you go into simulate now, you will actually see that we do get red warnings down here. And when I hit the play button, you will see the tool holder is going to turn red to show you that you are going to hit the jaws. So putting your parts in a vise or know that you have this option in the offset to do that in the fixture here can be extremely helpful. So I hope that you guys were aware of that. Now, to that point though, just so I'll be honest here, my role at Autodesk is technical marketing. So part of my jobs, when you anytime see my videos, is to try to make things look good. I don't know, well, let's be honest, that I would not put all my parts in a vise. And this part here, I might not do that in the first place. I might not go through all the trouble to put it in a vise. I would do it with certain parts that maybe is a little bit more complicated. So one thing I remember, the throttle pedal from the BAC Mono race car looked like kind of like a dog bone type thing. That would maybe be a good one to put in a vise, just because if the part starts to become a little wonky shapes, then it's definitely legit to do that. But I don't think I would do it with every part. So with that said, let's go in and just forget about this whole thing in a vise for a second. Let me open up an empty file. I'm gonna do what Rob kind of suggested when we talked last week about how to bring files into when we were doing the whole router thing. So I'm gonna open up an empty file, and then I'm gonna save it for a second. I'm just gonna call this one part file. And I want to use the trick that Rob did, was inserting the original file you're going to machine into another file. And I'm just doing this just to, if you didn't see that live stream, you should probably check it out. So just right click it, inserting it. The nice thing about doing this, inserting it into this, is that I'm not messing around with the original file if that comes from a customer. But that also, like I said the last time, it's, really depends a little bit about what your work process is. If this part came from a customer, maybe you don't want to mess with it and do exactly what Rob did. If you just model it up yourself, maybe you don't care. All right. So you're definitely okay to decide to program these parts without having them in a vise. You don't have to have them in a vise in here. So just quickly to throw some toolpath on this part as if we were. So I want to concentrate on when we're flipping it over, but I think this is kind of important to be able to show this. So let's just throw a toolpath on this. So I'm going to go into CAM, and I'm going to go in to the CAM workspace. I'm going to do a setup here, and I'm very lucky that everything is kind of like orienting correctly. Let me show you one thing though that I want to show you that is kind of neat. Be aware of that under the stock options. Fusion shows you the minimum stock we need for this part. I think this is absolutely awesome because most of the times you have to order your stock way before you actually get to machine the part, right? Because it takes a few days for it to show up, maybe. So this option inside of the stock that shows you that, absolutely perfect. Also, relative size stock, in my opinion, this is just me talking, is great if you don't know what your stock's gonna be. But if you knew what your stock's gonna be, I would probably say use the fixed size box here. And then there is a round to nearest value. Probably just set that to 100,000 and see kind of like what I get here. And then I'll do my stock after that. So let's just make it 100 of 4 inches by 4 inches. And then the height here, we need something to hold on to, right? So I'm going to make it 750 thick. And then be aware of that up here, we can actually do like from the front side. And we're just going to pretend that this one was maybe faced off. Oh, faced off or something. Hang on. Stock, offset. I don't want it from the center. Oh. Wrong button. That's going to be center. This one is going to be offset from the top. And I'm just going to say 0. So now we kind of like thinking we bought a Blanchard ground. We don't even want to dress it off, but whatever. So now when we look at our stock, we have something to hold on to in the first operation here. So let's go ahead and do the same toolpath as I did before. I will go in and use an adaptive for this. Select our tool. And I am running in inches over here, but, you know, like I said, doesn't really matter. This could be, you know, a metric and mil too. And let's just select the contour. It's going to be this area around here. Like I said before, maybe you want to go a little bit deeper, 100,000 maybe. Hit OK, and we kind of like got that first toolpath there. Play through here, speed it up a little, right? So hopefully you kind of got this. Now when it comes to flipping it around, all you really have to do inside of Fusion is literally this. So we have setup number 1. Can we agree on that? We have the z-axis pointing up and the x-axis go around. And we have our first toolpath. To do the second operation, we really can just flip it over and do another setup. And this time we can select the backside here and flip the x-axis around, and now we have the second setup here. What might just be like a facing operation to face, you know, the part off. So if we simulated both of these, you will actually see that, you know, the first toolpath will come from here. It would look kind of funny. First toolpath cutting around the part like that. Okay, and then the second toolpath cutting around on the bottom here. Now, there's a couple of things. I'm only 12 minutes in. I'm running quick today. There's a couple of things that maybe we should talk about while we're in here. So there is an option inside of Fusion to save out your first operation, and you can save it out as an STL. And if you watched yesterday live streams, you know how much I enjoy that. So we could go in here and put a couple of more toolpaths on this first operation. So let's go in here. There's not too much to it. Maybe somebody would look at this angle and say, how would you machine that? And either you would do it with a radius cutter or with a ball end mill. So if we do that, now we're in here. And I have done a couple of live streams about 3D toolpath. The contour would probably be very perfect to machine that surface around there. Going to contour, let's change it over to a ball end mill. This is going to be a surface machining in here, right? 1/8" end mill. And many times when I'm doing 3-axis toolpath, I literally just select my tool and I hit OK and see what I kind of get. And that's actually not too terrible. It does the holes, but it actually finds that sign we wanna go. So now I kind of like go in and I maybe start defining it. So if we go to the second tab for geometry, the silhouette here, I might change to selection. And then I would select the bottom and the upper contour here. And hit OK with that. And now we kind of like created a boundary within that. So now we don't touch the holes. Now it looks like the step over is pretty crazy. So let me just go in and edit that. So let's go over to the passes tab. Maximum step down is 40 thousandths. It's pretty rough for an 1/8 inch end mill, wouldn't you say? Let's try to make that 5 thousandths. Hit OK. And that looks pretty legit, I think. That looks like a nice tool path. One other setting you need to know about is the contact point boundary here. And the best way is probably looking at the image that flies up on your screen. When it is enabled, the contact point between the tool and it's like the tool, the radius of the cutter will keep a constant contact to the surface, where when it's disabled, it's literally the center of the cutter that it dictates where the cutter is going to travel in. I would think you probably want it on. Hit OK, and you get, I would say, a pretty nice toolpath with that. So with that, we have one operation that looks like that, and then we do our surface machining. And this actually doesn't. I should probably do something about this. See, now I'm getting sidetracked. That's funny. It's Friday, man. I should probably do something about this surface too. So let's go in. I can probably reuse that adaptive, I would think. So let's go in and, well, why don't we just Control C, Control V, so we get that second adaptive. So that's a copy. Let's move that up between. You can drag and drop operations, so you can order them, right? So let's go ahead and say edit that. Tool is fine. Geometry, we're not going to select this bottom. I'm going to select this edge. And then I'm not that old. I remember that I put in an offset down here. I will turn that one out like that. Make that 0. Oops. Yeah. Make it 0. Hit OK. So now that's going to clean that out. We probably now where we, so you see how let me just click here. You see how right now, so the first adaptive does the bottom, right? So if I just simulate the first adaptive, simulate, that kind of like defines the shape, the outside shape of our part. The next adaptive I'm using, that will actually, right now, as it is right now, if I simulate the second adaptive, so this was the first one, here comes the second adaptive. Look at how it's actually, the great thing about adaptive is it's looking at our machining stock, but right now it's machining a lot of air before it comes in. It makes a whole turn around it. In here, in the adaptive edit, in the adaptive, second adaptive, if you go to your geometry tab, there's something called stock contours. So the great thing about adaptive is that it's using the stock to find out how much material it's going to take out. But because we already took some material out, we can actually redefine the stock by checking stock contours and just select that edge. So now that toolpath is going to refine within that. So that's a much better way to do it. So let's take a look at it now. Oh, let's get to the second. So now the second toolpath. See, now it just only cleans up those areas. And then the ball and mill comes again. And I actually don't like it starting from the top working down. Right click edit. Go to your passes tab. And how about doing order bottom up? Will that work? So now it's going to machine from the bottom up. So that actually means it's going to side mill a little bit. Again, you can jump between the operations over here in the tree. Okay, I'm almost done with this, and then I'll start talking about second offsets again. All right, so now we kind of like have programmed most of it apart. That I think looks decent. Remember, it's only doing a 5,000 step over. So I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. There's some holes and things we got to do in the part too, but I'm just going to skip that for right now. So that was first operation. And then we had the second operation down here where we're going to flip the part around and face all that off. Now, so I guess the bottom line here is that to do the second op, you really only need to create another setup and do that. But oh yeah, so two things. I wanted to show you how you can save it out as an STL. So in the simulation space, simulate your whole part like this. And then in the simulation space, you can actually right click, and down here there is a stock option, and you can say save as stock, and it will actually save it out as an STL file. Now, I don't know anything about coding, and I for sure know that our developers works hard on all kinds of awesome things. I have to admit that sometimes I don't have the best luck bringing that STL file back in. And again, like if you saw yesterday's live stream, STL is just triangles. It's not like a solid body. What I would actually probably do if I needed the representation of this as a second operation, personally, I would probably go back in the modeling space and just opening up a rectangle on the back and extrude the stock up, and then use that in my second operation as stock. So in the second operation, I would go in and in the stock formation in here, select from solid and pick that what I had. I hope that makes sense. But another thing I want to show before we end up here is, so this is all great. I hope you got something out of this. Now, what about when we flip this one over? How are we going to hold on to it? So if we looked at this part sitting in the first vise here, this was all, this was like perfect marketing, right? The part is sitting in the vise, it looks great. But then the part's got to flip over. And one of the things that I'm looking at when I see this is soft jaws. So the soft jars, how would I do that? How would I lay that out inside of Fusion? I would actually, and this is one of the reasons that maybe I would not have the vise in the table and things. And I know that our application engineers many times are doing the same thing, that they just have a file with the part, and then they draw up the jaws, the soft jaws, what is made normally like out of 6061 aluminum, and using those. So let's draw up a couple of soft jaws that could actually hold this part with this goofy angle and everything. So first of all, I need to know what my soft jaw is going to be. So I'm going to go back to our model here, and let's just measure these jaws. So I'm going to go inspection, and I'm just going to select one corner and then a corner in the opposite end. And somebody emailed me the other day. By the way, if you have emailed me and you're waiting for an answer, I'm sorry, I'm running behind on my emails. Somebody emailed me and says, this is not useful at all. This just gives me the cross dimension for this part. Well, just go over here and turn on XYZ delta. And then you actually get all the dimensions that you need for this. So these jaws are 2 inches. This may be hard to see on the screen. By 6 inches by 1 inch. You can actually see that over here too. So let's make a couple of soft jaws that is like that. All right, let's go back into our part here. Let's go back into the modeling environment. And I would actually probably do those as, I'm just going to do those as bodies. And again, there's probably 80 different ways you could do this to be the right way. But I think that this is what I would do. So let's make a couple of soft jaws to hold on to this part. So I'm gonna make a offset plane from the back side of our part here, just kind of like determining how much am I actually gonna hold on to. So looking at this here, maybe I can hold on to, I don't know. I would like to hold on to 100 thousandths, but that doesn't look that is possible. Let's do minus 17075. So we're not holding on. It's kind of like cutting right through the center of that straight face there. I mean, you could also, in this case, you could also, if you put the holes in, put two screws in here, machine something, flip the screws over in two other holes and machine it. There's different ways you can do it. So this plane, offset plane, I use this here, cutting right through that surface there. And now I would literally just sketch up those jaws. So create a sketch on that. And I know that I'm going to have them centered. So I'm just going to create like a construction line from the center of the part. And if I select it and hit X on my keyboard, it becomes a construction line. This is really only for guidance. And then I'm just going to sketch out two rectangles. Well, let's sketch out one rectangle. And I don't care about hitting the dimensions. Just click it and then put the dimensions on it. So it was 6 inches by, what's that, 1 inch? Like that. And then you could use your constraints over here. So there's a midpoint constraint. So if I go over here and hit midpoint and I select that line to this construction line, those two will now be on a midpoint of one another. What means if I drag it, that's kind of like my jaw there. Now I'm going to have two jaws. So I probably would have one, if this is the back jaw, the movable jaw, probably around there. And if I just do a window around our sketch, Control C, click out in the window, Control V, then my move copy command shows up. Look at that. There is my number 2 jaw. If you missed this and you want to, if this is going too fast, go. This will be up on YouTube as we are coming along here. So this jaw can move around. So I'm just going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to use the midpoint from this one to that center line. I'll use the same center line. It's going to be on this. Oh no, it's not going to be on. Hang on. Let's not do that. Actually, because that's going to be on right on top of the other one. Let's do a collinear from this one to this one. So now these two are kind of like collinear to each other. What means if I drag this, move here. So I've kind of determined that this jaw is going to be down here. Now, one thing I maybe would do, looking at this, I could put this solid jaw up here, but then I got to machine this out of that jaw. If I maybe would move it past that a little bit, so that jaw is only holding on to kind of like this area here. I don't know. That could be a way. So I'm placing the jaws about where I want them. And then I'm just going to lock them in with some dimensions. So D for dimension. And from the center of this one, I'm going to place a dimension here. And I normally round these up a little bit because it's not super accurate. Make the distance between the two jaws, I don't know, maybe 1 inch. So what I have now is really, I hope that this is not confusing, is I have those two sketches sitting right in the center of kind of like that, a little bit under it looks like. So now I'm going to extrude those. So hit Q, click on those two bodies, and how long were they? They were 2 inches, right? So minus 2 inches, and there is my my two soft jaws. Now, if I turn the part off, there's nothing, I can't hold it like this. Here's one of my favorite commands inside of Fusion. And if you have never seen this command, it's worth for you to just check this out. If we go up and we hit the Modify tab, there's a tool called Combine. And it's actually, but it can do more than combine. It can also cut. So if I select Combine, my target body is going to be one of these jaws. The tool body is going to be the part. And I'm going to select, I want to cut with it, and just hit OK. Now, it looks like nothing happened. But if I hide the part, look at what just happened. We got an impression of the part inside this jaw. Let me do it one more time. Right click, repeat, combine. Target body this time is going to be the other jaw, and the tool body is going to be our part there. Hit OK, and it's almost like I just press the part into these soft jars as if it was clay or something. So we kind of like I've got a perfect imprint. Now, this is not perfect though. let's clean it up a little bit, because if I did it like this, I mean, this would be hard. Really, all I'm doing is trying to hold on to our little cab, and really the surfaces, honestly, the surface I really need is this surface right here. I want to use, whoops, whoa. I want to use this surface, and I really want to use this back surface. That's really all I want to, and then the bottom, this face here, these faces here to locate. That's all I really care about. The rest of it is not needed. So here's a cool thing. If I go in here and I select this face and I select this face, and I want to show this again, just hit the delete key on your keyboard. It's like they never happened. You can delete surfaces in a solid. Select the side here, hit delete, and Fusion will literally go in and clean it all up for you. Delete it like it was never there. It seals it all up. So I can go in and select these parts here and hit delete, and I don't want those. Another thing I probably would do, let me just hide that one jar, that one. Another thing I would do in here is these, remember how we just programmed those contours on the part? Chances are they're not going to be 100% perfect, so leaving these in here on the model would probably give me some aggravation when I'm, especially if you have more than one part, there could be a little bit of tolerance. So let's get rid of these here. So what I probably just would do, and I mean, this is, I don't know, hacking away at it. Let me open a sketch on this face here. And I'm going to use P for project and just steal that edge that I want and hit OK. And that actually also gives me the center point. That's an arc I don't use very often. It's the center point arc. But if I select the center point and I select this edge here, I can draw that same circle out. I can do it again. This center point to this one. Draw that out till it intersects. Let me hit the line key and close this off. And then you will hopefully see what I'm talking about. So let's hit Q and literally just cut all this. Now, how deep do I want to cut it? I probably would just cut it right down to this face. So literally by clicking on this face, I'm going to cut right down to that face. Hit OK. And now that jaw is pretty much, maybe you want to break the edges with a little chamfer. But if I turn the part on again, this part would sit nice and snug in here, and all this surface area will not be a complication. What I probably, you could go in and also offset this and maybe offset this a little bit. But I might try to just out of the control of the machine, maybe I make this, you know, a couple of thousands bigger, right, on the control, just so I know that it's not like small, if the parts are, depending on the tolerances. So with that, I would really just do the same, absolutely the same thing as I just did on the other one here. Open a sketch and do a project and just steal one of those edges that I'm looking for, this one. And then go in and I would just do this. I think I would do the same thing. There might be a better way to do this, but this surely works. So just select that. Select that same edge again. I can literally just, right, I can go all the way around. Doesn't really matter. Hit Alpha line. Select this to close it off. Hit Q for press pull. And make sure we got both sides selected. And again, to get the depth, instead of doing the distance, I can just double click on this shelf down here, and it will cut it down there. That would probably be, oh, one other thing I would do. I would definitely go in here, right click, create a sketch. And if I decided this was my solid jaw, the one that don't move, I would definitely create a pickup hole in here. So when if I had to take the jaws out and put them back in again, I can pick somewhere up on this part that if I pick this hole up, I know that that this would be a good reference. So just place this like this. Q, and I would actually I would drill, and I would send an end mill straight down, and I would also ream it, so I knew, or circle mill it or something, so I knew that hole was perfect. So that was the hole I would be using. Put the part back there, and then when I go into CAM, for that second setup, I actually wouldn't have my origin right there. I would just go in, right click, let's activate it. Right click, hit edit, and then when you place it, instead of doing like stock point over here, I would go selected point, and then just literally just select that circular, and that would be my pickup for the second operation. Now I can take the jaws in and out. I can always put them back in. I know if I pick up this hole, that where exactly the part's going to be. And for the movable side, what I used to do was I would snuck them in, take my part and dump it in, and slowly closing the vise. So if this jaw is moving a little bit, it could kind of like center itself around the part. Take the part out, and then just tighten down that movable jaw. That was 36 minutes for a Friday. We got 76 people in the live stream. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. If you're watching the recording, thank you. Was this useful? Let me know. Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you're fairly new to CAM, this might seem a little overwhelming, and I maybe ran a little bit fast. Rewatch it again. It's really not that hard. And I hope that you let me know. My email address is also down in the description area. You let me know, if this is how this is fitting into your you getting something out of this. This is what it is. These live streams is just all about trying to add some value to your day using Fusion 360. Guys, I hope you have an awesome weekend. You have something cool planned. Maybe you get to relax a little bit. I will do what I normally do. I will end the broadcast, and then I will jump in to the live stream and say hi to everybody in there. Thank you so much. Have an awesome weekend.